Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by Tutvid.com. Today we're going to take a look at creating a Flash business card. Now the point of this Flash business card is not really going to be to print the business card out so much as it is just to display this business card on your website. It's going to be animated. It's going to be, when you click on it, the business card will flip over and display information on the back side of it. And the way we're going to set this business card up, basically, I'm going to start with a base image. And for you, the base image could just be your original business card. You could just use the part where we script this thing and set it up to do the flipping animation. I'm going to actually make a little bit of a business card and add a little bit of animation to the business card itself prior to its flipping. So here's a quick example of the business card that we're going to create, something like this. See, we just have this sort of green colorizing this bit of metal, and when I click the business card, it flips it over, and you select it, and it flips itself back, and you can just keep clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. So that's the business card we're going to create. The first step is creating a new document. However, before we create the new document, I must point out that you want to use Flash CS4 because not only are we using ActionScript 3.0, here I'm going to go File New, we're going to use ActionScript 3.0, but we will also be utilizing the new 3D tools to allow us to make that flip. It really makes it really easy to get that kind of 3D or fake 3D animation effect using those 3D tools here in Flash. So those are new to CS4, so you probably want to be using Flash CS4. So here we go. I have my new document. I'm going to leave it at the default size 550 by 400. You can size this down to whatever you want, and you should be able to follow along just fine. The first thing, however, I want to do is create a new layer. We're going to name this new layer AS for ActionScript, and we're going to name the other layer Master. That will contain our card and all the animation, everything like that. We're going to put some ActionScript on this AS layer pretty much right at the very end to animate the flipping. Up until that time, we'll be creating the business card and actually creating our animation, which will be played via the ActionScript. So the first thing we want to do is grab the rectangle tool and just choose a color that's going to be visible. I'm going to start with green. Really doesn't matter what color because, again, we're going to be replacing this color with an image. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. I'm going to hit V, which is my selection tool, and select that rectangle. I'm going to set the width and height here in the Properties panel. Width, I'm going to set it to 350, well, not 250, 350, there we go. And the height to 200. Now the reason I'm doing 350 by 200 is because a typical business card is 3.5 inches long by 2 inches tall. So this gives us those business card proportions, which is pretty much what I want. I'm going to roughly center this in the middle of my Flash document here, and I'm going to hit F8. F8 is going to convert it to a symbol. We're going to name this guy MC Master because it's going to contain all of our animation and other movie clips. It is going to be a movie clip, and the registration will be the top left corner. Hit OK, and double click to get inside of this movie clip, and before we do anything, we're going to convert this to another movie clip. So I'm going to hit F8 again, and we're going to say MC Master Enter. And there we go. Now, typically, at this point, well, we want to double-click inside of this box once again. And once we get to this point, we could just delete this box and place our background image here, which, again, could be your actual business card, and we could just animate over that. Or we could take this and use it as a mask. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this and use it as a mask. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to drag that layer beneath this green box. You can see that's layer 1. Matter of fact, I'm going to double-click that and name it Mask, and I'm going to name this layer beneath it BG for background. I'm going to select the mask layer now. Let me drag this up just so you can see what I'm about to do. I'm going to right-click on the mask layer and hit Mask. You can see it has converted that layer to a masking layer, and it is masking the background layer. However, nothing shows up because there's nothing on the background layer. The mask disappears when you set it to mask something. Now, what I'm going to do is select this box here to convert this to outline mode and unlock the BG layer. Okay, now we can now see the outline of the mask. Okay, that's great. What I want to do now is come over here to Bridge, and you can see I've got bg.jpg. It's a JPEG image of the background of this business card that we're going to create. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this right into my library. There we go. You can see it appears in the library just like so. And now I'm going to drag it from the library and drop it right on stage. Now here on stage, I want to make sure I've got the image selected, and I just want to set the X and Y to 0. That's going to line them up perfectly with that mask, because remember that registration point is in the top left corner of that rectangle. So there we go. I can lock that up. Our green outline for the mask goes away. Our background is now properly aligned. Let's hit Control Enter on the Mac. That'll be Command Return to test the movie. There we go. Not much is going on yet, but we're going to get around to that. So the next step is going to be creating the thumbnail or the image. It would be your image, but in this case we're creating this business card for a fake, not even person. We're creating it for an animal who I'm going to name Birdie Lair, and this is going to be his picture. So I'm again going to type mask, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the rectangle tool and we're just going to make an 80 by 80 square. So I'm going to draw out any size square, and then I'm going to grab the width, set it to 80. There we go, 80. And the height, and I'm also going to set that to 80, just like so. Now I'm going to move this rectangle sort of up closer to the corner, leaving a little bit of a margin between the edge of my thumbnail and the edge of the business card. And I'm going to insert another layer, drag it beneath that mask, and I'm going to name this one Image. I'm going to right-click on that mask layer. Well, I'm going to drag this up. Then I'm going to right-click on the mask layer, choose to mask that. Again, notice the mask disappears. That's exactly what we want. I'm going to set that mask to outline mode, unlock the image layer. You can see there. Now we have that outline. And we're going to drag this picture of Birdie Lair right into the library. And I'm going to move back over to Flash here. And you can see that this is a PSD, birdielair.psd. And basically it's saying, look, you want to import this PSD. Would you like to import or choose which Photoshop layers you'd like to import? And in this case, there is only one, and that's the background layer. That's what I want. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's just going to import that PSD right there. I'm going to drag the PSD out of the library onto the stage. Now, notice it's not allowing me to drag it out onto stage. That's because I have the wrong layer selected. So just make sure you've got an unlocked layer selected. It can go onto any layer you want, but it has to be an unlocked layer. Now that I've got the layer unlocked, we can drag him right out of there. Now notice we can use this outline given to us by our mask to sort of position our image, because only the part of the image inside of that red outline, I'll zoom in a little bit here, only the part of the image inside of that thin red outline is what's going to be visible. So this image is a little bit too big. I'm going to hit the Q key, which is my transform tool, hold down my Shift and Alt keys. On the Mac, that would be Shift and Option, and just crunch this guy down a bit. Maybe make him that big. And there we go. That's good. We can size them down like that. If I lock up the image layer, you're going to see it's going to mask it off to our mask shape. Perfect. Zoom back out. And now we are ready to basically place some text here. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to place his name. I'm going to grab the text tool, and I'm going to set the color to white. And Arial bold is fine. Actually, I'm going to do bold italic. And we're going to increase the size, maybe push it up to around 12 or 13. Let's see what works. And it's telling me again the current layer is locked, so let's create a new layer. I keep forgetting that. We're going to name that layer text. There we go. And now that it has unlocked the mask, let's just lock the mask layer back up. We're working on the text layer here. Ignore the rest of these layers. I'm going to zoom in a touch, and let's just type out his name. I'm going to place a quote. I'm going to say Birdie Lair, and a close quote. So there we go. We've got the name right there. Next, I'm going to sort of put the business name beneath this. So this is just, your information would go here. I'm going to double click this. I am going to, well, we're going to change the name first. Let's say, I don't know, weight training. And deselect that. We're going to drag it right over. There we go. Now, I don't want this to be bold italic, so I'm going to try setting this to regular. I don't really like it as regular, so I'm probably going to stick with bold. There we go. Bold looks pretty good. And the size, we're going to knock it down to about 11. There we go. Note that it is pulling off to the right-hand side here every time we make a change. That's because this is actually aligned to the right, so we want to align this left. And now I'm just going to shift it right over. There we go. And now when I make changes, it's going to change properly because it is aligned to the left, not the right. Now I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key and click and drag down. I'm holding the Shift key too to keep myself lined up in a straight line. So it's going to pull straight down, exactly straight down. And I'm going to double click this, and we would put our address in here. So I'm basically going to say, 123 Main Street, and hit Enter, return once. Some city. Make sure we hit Enter, return once there. Some city, PA for Pennsylvania, and we're just going to say the zip code is 9,000, or 90,000, excuse me. Zip code would be 90,000, and there we go. So Birdie Lair, weight training, 123 Main Street, Sun City, PA. Zip code will be 9,000. So now that we've done that, we can simply throw a phone number down here and a web address, which I will do real quick. I'm going to grab the text tool, and I'm just going to type only one dash there, 1-111-1111. Typically, there we go. That's how the phone number would be formatted. And I'm going to make this phone number quite a bit smaller. So the size, let's try knocking it down to 9 points. That looks pretty good. And this we are going to style as bold italic again. And then I'm going to hold down my Alt key again on the Mac. That would be Option. Drag it straight across. Now right here, we want to align this to the right. So I'm going to move down on my Properties panel, and I'm going to align this to the right, just like so. And I'm going to double click on this guy and just type in www.trainingforthebirds.com. There we go. Deselect that, and you can see that it is overlapping our phone number quite a bit. So let's try knocking the size down a bit more. We can knock that down to 8. Let's knock the phone number down to 8 as well. And just nudge this guy over a little bit. There we go. So there we go. We have our basic information in, and we have our background. Our business card is essentially laid out at this point. So the next thing we want to do is create that sort of colored overlay and then begin looking at our actual animation, animating this guy to flip back and forth. Creating the colored swoosh, or the animated bit of color that recolors this black and white bit of metal, is pretty easy. So the first thing we want to do is create a new layer. We're actually going to need to create a second layer, but we'll probably just duplicate this layer once we have our initial shape down. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, grab the oval tool, and what I'm basically going to go for is tracing the outer edge of this shape. Now, if you know how to use the pen tool, I say go for it, use the pen tool. It'll probably be a little bit faster, but for the sake of you that do not know how to use a pen tool or are intimidated by the pen tool or whatever the reason is, you're not using the pen tool, another way you can do it is use the oval tool, and I'll show you exactly how to do it right here. Basically, we're going to grab the oval tool and we're going to draw a big oval, something sort of like this. Now, note we cannot see our shape. Now we can see it. And what we want to do is we want to align this edge of the oval with this edge of that shape. We want to sort of follow the edge of that shape as best as we can. So I'm going to get the circle in place, and I'm going to hit the Q key, which is my free transform tool, and I'm going to begin pulling this guy into place. All right, I'm going to pull him down a little bit, pull him over this way a little bit, down a little more, over this way a little bit more, and looks like I got to come back this way some. I come back this way a little bit more, and we're getting closer. Pull it up a little bit. And again, remember, this is just sort of like a rough going to get this guy in place. There we go. That looks about right. And now that I've spent about a minute adjusting that, I'm going to now copy the shape, Command or Control C. I'm going to create a new layer right on top here and just hit Command Shift or Control Shift V to paste this guy in place. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to change the color to something like green. It really doesn't matter. It can be any color as long as it's something different. And now what I want to do is move this guy, and you can see this red is in the way. So I want to come down to layer 8 and just hit the little eyeball dot here, right here, to shut that layer off. I want to align this green edge to right here, right on this edge of the metal. So I'm going to move this guy over a little bit, and it looks like you got to sort of squash him down and shift him right over there into place. Pull him up a little bit, and there we go. That went much faster. Now that I have this in place, I'm going to hit Command or Control X to cut it right off that layer. Come back down to my layer 8, deselect, and hit Command Shift or Control Shift V to paste it in place right on that layer. Now deselect everything, then select that green oval and hit the delete key, and you can see we have cut ourselves a nice little swoosh. Now all that's left to do is mask this swoosh shape to our business card, which is a breeze. Note here we still have layer 9. We're going to double click that, and we're going to type in the word mask because this is going to be our mask. And layer 8 here, we're going to double click, and we're just going to name that swoosh. What I'm going to do is come down to this original mask layer. That would be the actual mask for the entire business card. And I'm going to unlock that and turn off the outline mode. And I'm going to select the shape, Command or Control C to then copy it. lock up the mask layer down there, come up to my mask layer here, and hit Command Shift or Control Shift V to paste that guy right in place. Now, as we've done 2 other times, right click on that mask layer and just choose to mask it. And look at that. We have that swoosh masked right in there, right in that business card layer. So the next step is actually creating an animation inside of that shape. Doing that is really pretty easy. Basically, we're going to set this mask to outline mode. Just hit that little square. Unlock the swoosh layer. You can see this is our swoosh. And we're going to convert this to a symbol. So that'd be F8. And we're going to name this MC Animate Color. There we go. It is now a movie clip. Double click to get inside of that movie clip. And this layer is going to become yet another mask. So I'm going to create a layer to contain the animation. Drag it beneath layer 1. I'm going to name this layer Animate Fill, because it's basically going to be a fill we have running up and down this. And then this top layer I'm going to name Mask. I'm going to right click on that top layer, and I don't want to move off screen there. Right click on that top layer, choose Mask. I'm going to drag my timeline down, and now all I need to do is, well, I'm going to set that mask to outline mode and unlock the fill layer, because I want to be able to see where my guides are. And you can see this green edge, which is very thin. Those are my guides. I need to fill that with color every time I go up and down. And really, this can be any color you want. So what I'm going to do is grab a rectangle tool and make sure I'm on my Animate Fill layer, and just drag out a long, thin rectangle like so. I think I'm going to stick with green. And basically, this green, before I do anything, I'm going to convert this to a movie clip. So I'm going to hit F8 and name it MC Fill. And I am going to also blur it. So I'm going to collapse color effect here. I'm over in the properties panel. I'm looking for the filters area. And when I find the filters area, I'm going to hit the little new filters button right here. And I'm going to choose blur. And I'm going to blur it about 25. Ooh, 25, not 258. 25 on the X and Y. You can see it gives us a nice blurred effect. Now that we've done that, we want to come out here to about 60 frames and hit F5, bring some frames out there. And I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key and click and drag that keyframe and drop it out here on frame 60. This is on the Animate Fill layer. And I'm going to hit my Q button. And I'm going to pull this straight up. However, you can see it's stretching it both ways. I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key to only pull one way. And Alt or Option again and pull out to the side a little bit. So there we go. We're going to end up moving from this to this. We're going to right click in between those two keyframes and hit Create Classic Tween. And you can see here is our tween. And next we're going to come out to the 120 frame mark and hit the F5 key again to bring some frames out. I'm going to Alt drag this keyframe over, hold down the Alt or Option key, and drag that keyframe out. And now I'm just basically going to drag it from the bottom left corner, holding the Alt key. I'm going to drag it right up and out the top, just like so. Right click in between those keyframes, hit Create Classic Tween, and you can see we have a nice color effect just like that. I'm going to lock that up. It's going to be locked inside of the mask there, and because we have no stop actions or anything like that, it's just going to continuously play. So I'm going to come back to MC Master Inner, and I just want to select this movie clip, and we want to come down here to Display and set the blending mode to Overlay. So there we go. It looks like it's disappeared, but basically all it's going to do is color this metal as it goes up and over it, as opposed to just covering it up with solid flat green. So I'm going to hit Control Enter on the Mac to be Command Return to test our movie, and you can see what we've got. It just looks like the green is wiping up across the metal and just, going right up and over, and that's it. So there we go. We have created our business card. Now let's take a look at beginning the flipping process. We actually have to create the back side of it still, which will be a quick thing to do. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So let's just take care of creating the back of the card real quick. Let's come back to MC Master, and I'm going to name this layer Front. And I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to name it Back. Now on this back layer, I'm going to grab that background.jpg and I'm going to drag it right out. I'm going to set the X and Y to 0. It's going to line it right up perfectly with the front of the card. However, I'm going to come up here to Modify, Transform, and I'm going to flip this horizontal. So just flip the background right around, and I'm going to select this guy, hit the F8 key, and I'm going to name it MC Card Back. There we go. And inside of this card back, I'm just going to throw a couple animations. Basically, I'm going to double click this layer inside of here. I just double clicked inside of MC card back. Here we are. We got front and back. This is the back of the card. We're going to double click on that. And inside of here, we have a text layer. And I'm going to double click and name this layer. Ooh, let's just name it BG for background. And on the text layer, I'm just going to throw some simple text in there. That's going to say, call birdie, exclamation point. And I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm just going to drag this over here like this. We're going to increase the size to maybe 25 points. There we go. Change the color to white. And we're going to change the style to black. Or maybe, we'll stick with bold. We'll just stick with regular old bold. There we go. Call birdie. And I'm actually going to convert this to a symbol, F8. And we're just going to call it MC back TXT. So that'd be movie. It's a movie clip for the back of the card. And it's just some text. And basically all we're going to do is come out here to the 20 frame mark, hit F6 to place 2 keyframes out there. And up here on the text keyframe, we're actually going to come back to the keyframe on the first frame, hit Q, which is our free transform tool, and we're going to hold down the Alt or Option key and just click and drag straight down. And then right-click between these 2 keyframes and hit Create Classic Tween. So essentially what we're doing is just making our text look like it's flipping right up into place. There we go. Very nice. Now we only want that to happen once, so let's create another layer real quick. Name it AS. And place a keyframe at the very end. That would be F6 is the hotkey. F9 is the hotkey to bring up the Actions panel. And we're just going to throw a quick stop action in there. So we're just going to type the word stop, open and close parenthesis, and semicolon. There we go. So that will animate only once. Now I'm going to come back to MC Master. Now the real fun and the tricky part begins with actually animating our business card to flip. And then we're going to go and use the action script to tell it basically when to flip. So let's start our animating this business card to actually flip. Animating this in 3D space, or really faking this 3D look, which is really what we're going to be doing because we're not working with true 3D objects, but faking this 3D look is going to require us to work with Flash CS4's motion editor and use the new motion tweens. That whole thing, when you right-click this Create Classic Tween, that is what we used to know as the motion tween. The new motion tween is a much powerful tween in general and requires the use of the motion editor. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to get a very basic tween down pat first, and then we will take a look at really creating the flips here in our business card. The initial tween that we're going to do is not just going to be something we're going to create and throw away, though. It's something we are going to use with the business card. So let's take a look at that. The first thing I want to do is drag the back layer beneath the front layer and create a new layer on top of the front layer. Name that new layer AS for Action Script. Now I'm going to just shut off the back layer just so it's not distracting. So I'm going to hit the little eyeball there. Now the front layer, what I want to do is come out to frame 20 and hit F5 to just throw in frames, fill into frame 20 with frames. I'm going to select my first frame here and grab the 3D rotation tool. I'm going to grab the red axis coming right through the middle here. I'm going to select that, the straight up and down line, and I'm going to pull it to the left, essentially laying the card flat. There we go. We've laid the card flat. Next, what we want to do is right-click on the frames after this frame and say Create Motion Tween. It's going to create a motion tween from the keyframe to the end of the frames or just to the next keyframe. In this case, I just wanted to go to the end, and I will take care of creating a keyframe to continue the animations later on. So I have my motion tween. I'm going to select out here on frame 20, and I'm going to go to my motion editor. Pull this up a little bit so we can see what we're doing. I want to place a keyframe here for basic motion along the X, Y, and Z axis. So I'm going to hit this little button in here that says Add or Remove Keyframe. It's sort of like a diamond. You can't really see it here. It's just it's hard to see. It's between these 2 little arrows, but select it and it fills in all 3. And we also want to choose a keyframe for rotation X here. We don't need to worry about rotation Y or Z. So now that we've done that, let's come back to the timeline and just sort of scrub through our playhead. We can see that nothing has happened. So that's good because I haven't really set up any kind of rotation or anything yet. We just, remember, laid this card down here on frame 1. So I'm going to come out to frame 20. You can see there is a keyframe placed there. And I'm going to pull this red line to the right now to stand my card back up. Let me pull this guy down so we can see what we're doing. All right, now if I come over here to frame 1, and I scrub through the playhead, you can see we have our nice little animation. Command Enter, and you're going to see that it's an animation and it's also playing with our green fill shooting through it. All right, don't worry about the speed and the fact that it keeps repeating. We'll take care of all that in a minute. The nice thing is we have just created our very first animation using the motion editor. Very, very cool. The next thing we want to do is animate this card laying forward and then the backside flipping up and over. So actually, before we go any further and do that animation, we probably want to place our stop action right here, because when your business card initially shows up, this is where you want it to stop. You want people to see your information before clicking the card and checking out, the information on the back, which in this case is just going to be a simple, hey, call Birdie. So what I'm going to do is come up to the action script layer and hit F6, which is going to place a keyframe. Hit F9 to bring up the actions panel. I'm just going to type a simple stop action. There we go. And I'm going to make that go away. Now when we test the move, you're going to see it's going to play once and stop. So very nice. Now what we want to do is come up here again to the front layer, and I want to basically duplicate this tween. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key, and I'm just going to drag this tween straight to the right. And you can see all I've done is duplicated the tween. What I want to do here is come to my first keyframe here and just stand the card back up. So I'm going to drag that red line. I'm just going to pull to the right to stand the card straight up. And I want to really flip it forward. So I'm going to come to the keyframe over here on frame 40 now, and I'm going to pull it over to the right as well to pull it forward, essentially laying it flat on its face. You can see now it's flipping forward. So once we get beyond it standing up, when the user clicks on the card, it's going to fold forward. Now we want to bring the back into play. So I'm going to select this whole bit of back and drag it right over here to frame 40. So as soon as this finishes flipping forward, the back will start flipping around, taking its place. So the back, we're going to select that. I'm going to turn the layer on so we can see what we're working with here. And I want to right click in this bit of frames and create that motion tween. Select this frame out here by frame 60. It's actually frame 59. And bring up the motion editor. Again, remember, we just need that basic motion, rotation X, Y, and, the basic motion X and Y and rotation along the Z in this case. So let's switch back to the timeline. And out here on this keyframe, what I want to do is flip this guy. He would be coming from the back, flipping forward. So you see he's laying down forward, so the back side is going to start laying flat on its back, like that. And I'm going to come out here to this keyframe, and he would rotate forward. Whoop, there we go, like that. So let me just double check to make sure that's going to look right. And no, that does not look right. What we need is him to start out on the other side. Whoop, there we go, like that. That's how we need him to start. And he should flip right around. There we go. So you can see it now looks like the card is actually properly flipping the way it's supposed to. So we can't really test this out quite yet. So let's take a look at the next thing necessary to continue this flipping of the card. Basically, what's going to happen is as soon as somebody flips to the back of the card, they're going to click the card again, and we want something to happen when they click the card again. And what's going to happen is essentially all of this is going to play backward. So let's just create that tween real quick. But before we do that, we're going to place another stop action right out here. So I'm going to select right above the last frame, hit F6, hit F9 to open up my actions panel, and just type the word stop, open and close parenthesis, and a semicolon. So there we go. Now that we've done that, we're going to come to the back layer. I'm actually going to select this tween, hold down my Alt or Option key, and I just want to duplicate it, click and drag it right over if it is going to allow me. There we go. Click and drag that guy over, and again, basically we're going to start at this position. So I have to stand this guy back up, which would be dragging it to the right. There we go. And we want him to flip backward, almost as if this side went and laid on its back. So, I believe here, yes, we want to pull this to the left, just like that. And now you can see what's going to happen. There we go. The card's going to lay down. I want to select this motion tween here. And notice with these motion tweens, in order to select them and move them around, all you have to do is select the initial keyframe. And I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key, click and drag it right over. So you don't have to worry about selecting whole chunks of code to copy and drag animations around. It's very nice. So for this, I want this guy to be laying on his back, like so. There we go. I just pulled to the left. There we go. He's laying on his side. And we want him to stand right up. Nope, not that way. We want him to stand up that way. Let's just scroll through that, make sure it looks right. So this card flips back, and he comes right out of it. I don't think that looks quite right. But we are going to stick with it for the sake of time. So I'm going to place a keyframe right up here. We're going to hit F6 to place a keyframe, and F9 to open up the actions panel and place a stop action right up there. So there we go. Let me just run through this once. So it flips over, and then it should just roll right back. Oh, okay, I think I know what's wrong. This guy here, or excuse me, this guy here should actually be this way. Oh. Select it again, and there we go. Now let's see what it looks like. There we go. That looks more natural. So we have sorted out our little motion tweening dilemma. Now comes the time to actually script this business card so when somebody clicks, it is going to do what we want it to do. Let's come back to scene 1 here, and we're going to begin placing some action script in here. We are actually going to have to come back inside of this business card just a second to check some positioning, some frames, because we're going to allow the user to trigger certain things depending on where the playhead is. So I'm going to hit F9. We're going to get this thing initially set up. Actually, let me close the actions panel. Before we do anything, we have to select this movie clip and give it an instance name. I'm going to give it the instance name of bus card _MC. Now I'm going to come up to my actions panel, and I'm going to open it up with the F9 key. I'm going to say bus card _MC dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for a mouse event dot click. I'm going to hit comma, space, and the name of the function will be card click, and I'm going to close parenthesis, semicolon. Now this bit of action script may be a little difficult for you to see, so here's a quick tip. You can hit the little flyout menu here, come down to preferences, and in your preferences for your action script, you can come over here to the font section and just make the font a bit bigger. I typically like to work with 18 or 20 when I'm recording my videos, but when I'm just doing my own personal projects, I work with size 10. So here we go, size 20. It should be a bit easier to see now. So we've got buscard.addEventListener. We're listening for a mouse event, and the mouse event we're listening for is a click. On that click, execute the function card click. Now before we go any further, I'm just going to say buscard _MC dot button mode, and this is going to equal true. Basically, this is going to treat this movie clip like a button. When somebody rolls over it, they're going to get that little pointer finger as if they were hovering over a link. Really, that's nice because it just tells people, hey, you know what, you can click me. And now we're going to go on and create the function. So we're going to say function card click, and this is an event, so we're going to type event mouse event, close parenthesis, colon, and the word void, open curly bracket, enter, return twice, curly bracket, and hit the up arrow key. Now we're going to create an if statement. So basically we're going to say if, open parenthesis, if bus card _MC dot current frame, so if the current frame of this movie clip is equal to, and here's where we need to run in there and check. I'm going to select this card, double click it. Basically, if we've gotten to this first stop action, which is here on frame 20, we're going to allow people to click on this. So if we've gotten to frame 20, so what we need to do, select that, select the action script layer, bring up the actions panel, and say if the current frame is equal to 20. Close parenthesis, open curly bracket, enter, return twice, close curly bracket. So if the current frame is equal to 20, we're just going to say bus card _MC dot play, open and close curly bracket, semicolon. So basically, if it's gotten to frame 20, okay, go ahead, you can play again, and it will play till it gets to the next stop action. And here we're going to say else. So if anything else, if it's on any other frame except 20, and somebody decides to click it, basically we're going to say bus card _MC dot go to and play, open parenthesis, 1, close parenthesis, semicolon. So basically, if you hit this card when it's on any frame except frame 20, it's going to reset the card essentially. So, Command Control Enter or return, so that'd be On the PC, that would be Control-Enter. On the Mac, that would be Command-Return. How's that for bumbling my words? So here the business card has loaded, and we are, in fact, on frame 20. When I click it, you're going to see it's just going to flip the business card right over. Now, when I click again, you can see it's just going to reset the business card. Even though we don't want it to reset the business card at this point, we want it to continue playing because we have another animation we set up. But here, you can see if I hit the business card before it finishes, it's going to, just basically reset itself there. There you go, reset itself. So let's go ahead and set this thing up to, play beyond the, current frame, like once we get out to whatever that other frame is, which we're going to check right now. So I'm going to hit F9 to close the action script panel. Double click on this movie clip to get into it. So there we go. And the next place we stop is right here at frame 59. So we're also going to say here in the actions panel, right here, we're going to copy this else statement. We're going to hit Command or Control C, and we're just going to paste it right there. But we're going to change this right here to else if. All right. So I'm going to say else if, open parenthesis, else if bus card underscore MC dot current frame is equal to 59. Here again, you can just say bus card underscore MC dot play. Open and close parenthesis, no number 1 in there, so just bus card underscore MC dot play. All right, let's hit Control Enter on the Mac. That'll be Command Return to test this out. Our card gets to its initial state. We want to see more info. We click to flip the card, and that's nice. We click to flip the card back. Oh, that's nice. And we click again, but you can see there the card just goes right back to the initial starting point. So what we want to do is send this card back to frame 20 once it gets to that last frame. So I'm going to double click to get inside of this card, and we're going to scroll all the way to the end right here. And in the action script, we're going to hit F9. We're going to say stop, and then after that, actually we don't even have to say stop. We're simply going to say go to and stop 20. Close parenthesis, semicolon. All right? I'm going to close my actions panel. We're going to hit Control Enter on the Mac to be Command Return. Test it out. There we go. We click. Okay, nice. Click again. We go back. And we have now shot back to frame 20. So if I click it again, it's going to flip the card again. Click it. It's going to flip the card again. And all that good stuff. Now, you may have noticed there, let me just replay that when it goes back to frame 20 here, you can see it's playing, and then it sort of restarts, it stutters. That is because we are playing this from a new keyframe. Essentially, that movie clip is being refreshed, if you will. So that's what's happening there. It's no big deal. You may notice it there, but that's what's happening there. But we're not really going to spend the time to fix that problem here. But basically, what we've gone through is how to use a little bit of action script and how to really get our feet wet with the motion editor to create sort of this 3D flipping animation, which is our business card here. So a very cool little Flash animated and semi-interactive business card for you. You can add all kinds of things. You can go crazy with the animation if you want. All sorts of cool little things. But that is it for this one. An animated business card in Flash. I sure hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed recording this video. And that's it for this one. Please go check out the site. That's www.tutvid.com. Thanks for watching.